Hey everyone, I came in here, I was like debating about obviously making a video with our previous game. Did not expect that outcome, obviously. I was really hoping that the Lakers would pull through. A couple thoughts. I was like debating about doing this video because at this point, if you really are optimistic, you think we still have a chance. If you watched that game and thought we had a chance, God bless you, because there were so many things that I thought could have gone worse. And actually, we stayed in the game for majority of the game, almost the whole game. To lose that game is not surprising. I know there's a lot of concerns that JJ didn't take anybody out for the second half, especially considering how old LeBron is and how, tired Luka looked at the end of the fourth. But some of those things that have to be a big red flag. LeBron scoring 0 points at all in the fourth quarter. I mean, that is pretty bad. A lot of bad ball transition. Luka was terrible with the turnovers in the fourth quarter. Now, I guess you can always make the argument of they were exhausted, they were tired. But as a player, if you know you're not doing well and you need to be subbed out, you talk to your coach and tell him, give me 2 minutes, please, and take me out. You do not sabotage your team. I don't care what anybody says. If any of these players were fucking exhausted, you as a player need to speak up if your coach isn't doing it for you. And I get it. Coaches should be watching and monitoring how the playing is happening. And when people are fatigued, they need to be taken out. I've already said this before, and I've said this before coming into the season, and obviously with the changes in the new acquires that we had. Having no center into this series was never a benefit to us. It was always something that we were going to be hurting, and seeing this series has continued to prove that. Luka not able to put the ball up and lob it up to somebody, or have that easy transition ball where you can have a layup with somebody right next to you to push the ball through. The rebounds, they were getting improved. I will say that the rebound, the second chance points, that improved significantly. However, the big hole was having no center. So when you have no center, there's nothing you can have a conversation with at this point. Do I blame anybody on this team? Absolutely not. You're delusional if you think any player, any coach had any reasoning of losing the series. If you don't blame your GM for not getting a center when they had the opportunity to do so, that's a problem, okay? Mike Williams, from, I believe, what is it? I think the Hornets? I think that's who it was. But I don't even know if he would have made a big difference because, he was also injured a lot. So it's hard to say when you don't have the ability to choose or prove that you have that center that would make a big difference. Obviously, if we played this series with AD, without Luka, I don't think we would have lost this series because you have a well-balanced team for the most part with AD and attacking the rim and getting the rebounds. And you have Reeves to be that, obviously, third option offensively. I had a concern coming into this series, even with the series becoming beginning, as well as when the trade happened, is having Luka and Reeves both come in as an offensive play was improved. However, you do lose that defensive decline with losing AD completely. Do I think that any of these players should be traded in the offseason? It just depends on what you're asking and what you're wanting to get out of these players. Now, I love Reeves. I'm always a Reeves stan, but I wouldn't trade Reeves unless I'm getting a caliber, top 3, top 5 center. Call me delusional. But if you're going to give up the other person that is your offensive scorer, and if we're talking about LeBron possibly retiring this year, then you don't get rid of Reeves. That's the dumbest thing you could do at this point, especially because not a lot of centers have the ability to put points up like AD was, okay? So you're not going to get someone like AD that's going to be able to put that much offensive into this team. I mean, I get with, Luka, you don't really need to, but at the same time, you also don't want to risk losing that offensive weapon that you've had that has been consistent for the most part. Whether or not you guys want to blame Reeves for being non-existent for the series, I don't know what you guys are watching typically, because if you see this team, the Wolves are very great defensively. That's what happens when you play a really good defensive team. offensively, the players that normally are going off are going to struggle. This is a series. This is a playoff. It's even going to get worse when you get these type of plays. So honestly, it frustrates me that I have to make this video, but because of the fact, so much hate, LeBron, I get it. Everybody could have had an opportunity to be better, of course. There's always a chance for improvement. But do I blame a single player on this team? Absolutely not. You did what you could do best with whatever you had. I like Hayes, but he wasn't doing it. He wasn't getting there, and he was causing too many fouls to be on this team and get minutes. My biggest issue with the series, and I still don't understand why this didn't get changed, is why Dalton Knecht didn't get any minutes. So wasn't like, we were, to the point that you could just say, hey, it's not worth putting Dalton Knecht, because you gave minutes to other people, which is fine. Obviously, who was it? It was Hayes. It was, Gabe Vincent. You got Dorian Smith. All really great candidates for minutes. However, in that rotation, you could have played Dalton to see what he could give you offensively. Even if he doesn't provide anything defensively, he's big enough to get the rebounds. So that's a body that you could have utilized, which is the only thing I look back at this series and wish I would have been able to see. Obviously, we do have a game tonight, so it'll be interesting whether or not Dalton will get some minutes. If they bring Kleebler, who's been out a majority of the season, to come in and play this series, I'm going to be pissed. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be pissed because at this point, Dalton Knecht has minimal minutes this whole series, which to me, I still don't understand, because he was one of our offensive weapons before Luka came onto this team, and doesn't mean that he wasn't still an opportunity to become that. So to take that completely, I just don't get why. But then again, I'm not the coach, so there's obviously things that they see that I don't see. At this point, it'd be nice to see Dalton Knecht get some minutes, considering that you're taking away almost all the minutes from Hayes. I know a lot of people were upset with Austin Reeves getting 0 points in the first half. And unexcusable was what I was seeing a lot of people trying. However, you have to remember, he was at 3 fouls before the half. He only played like 11 minutes. And in those 11 minutes, they weren't consistent because he was taken out. I want to say the second foul he had, he was taken out for a period of time and then put back in. And then he committed his third foul and then he was completely out. So it's very difficult for an offensive player to be out for an amount of time. And the fact that he actually got it going in the third and fourth quarter, I was actually surprised because I wasn't expecting much of an actual performance because of the 3 fouls. So, there's a lot of things going on Twitter right now that people are getting so upset. But in reality, if you're watching these games and you're watching, for the most part, this team, you knew that this wasn't going to be, at least I thought I knew for sure when I said the first video, this game is not going to be as easy as people think it's going to be. It's not, because you've always had that defensive lack. And it's not that the players, by any means are terrible, players. It's just, some people are good at certain things, and a lot of our starters are not good at playing defense. So what did you expect when you were going against a really good defensive team? Like I said before, Julius Randle went off for the majority of the series. Like we always expect that one player that you don't see against the Lakers always seem to go off, and then the next series go and do nothing. So I'm very on the fence of wanting to watch, if we go past this game, putting myself through that mental torture, because I feel that at the end of the day, the result's going to be the same. You have no center that's going to compete like we did the year before with AD. AD was begging for help, and then you get rid of our only center to replace him with no center, and then we have the delusional of thoughts of, hey, let's not get a center and think that we're going to get far in the series. Now, my biggest issue is with this group of people. I do have the tendency to want to compare to the Mavs, who obviously last year went all the way with Luka and Kyrie, and honestly, I can't tell you who the third player was because I wasn't really thinking they would even get that far with their actual squad, because compared to talent, we were way more talented this time around than that talent that they had before. Again, I've heard from people that the Mavs last year were really good at defensive plays. but you still need someone to shoot on offense. So that is, still something that needs to happen. So the fact that, Luka and Kyrie did it, I do not think that they're a better duo than the three that we have today going into the game this year. But at the end of the day, there is kind of concern, if he was conditioned enough to get to that level. I mean, if you look at the minutes that Luka played in the other series with the Mavs, he played almost 40 minutes. Now, whether they were consistent, I can't tell you, but still, he was playing those minutes that he played last game. However, you have to remember, you get exhausted at one point. So it's hard to say if the exhaustion played in a role or just the fact that, we don't have a center, so it's a lot harder to do things. My biggest issue, like I said, is the turnovers. Turnovers. LeBron committed so many. Luka committed so many, especially in the half, after the second half. You can't do that. When you're getting close to the game being on the line, you just have to have that ability to lock in and make no mistakes. So, like I said, this team, I love them to death. I love all the players. I don't think you trade any of them. You just find that center that you can get off in the offseason and hope that you can keep the same roster. Now, some of the people on the bench you can get rid of, that's fine. But Luka, Reeves, LeBron, Rui have to stay. The rest, you can do whatever you want. Those four have to stay, in my opinion. It'll be interesting what happens. So we'll see this game. Obviously, I can't enjoy it as much because usually I like to drink with my games because it gives me that buffer of pain that will be happening as we see the inevitable happen. But I'm prepared mentally at this point. If we make it past this game, great. I will be excited to see them continue. Do I have expectations to make it to a game 7? Absolutely not. It's very difficult to come up of this hole. But then again, LeBron's done it before, so it's not surprising if we can do it again. However, to win consistently and get to the game 7 and win it, I would think that this would be the first time in NBA playoff history where a team's gone 3-1 and won the series. So then again, we'll see. I mean, a lot of key calls from the refs that could have made it into a game, whatever, but they didn't. So there's a chance that, we're not going to get that lucky again. Like I said, in previous games, except for the one before, there was a lot of ref calls that were helping us at least go to a better point. But the last game, it was absolutely terrible. So it's hard to say what will be this game. So obviously, if the NBA wants the ratings to continue and the views to continue, you want the Lakers to be in the NBA playoffs. That's just my opinion. And I might be biased because I'm a Lakers fan. But with this new, new player change in the trade and having Luka, this is such an interesting game. And knowing that this team has been selling, their jerseys is number one. I think Luka's become the number one selling jersey in the NBA. So there's a lot of people that obviously want to watch this series. So if they're doing it for ratings, you'll see maybe a game 7. But I really don't think they will. So I will say this might be my last video, but we'll see. I hope you guys enjoy the game tonight, win or lose. Obviously, I'm still a Lakers fan, and I'll have to do a video for the Raiders soon, but I hope you guys enjoy the weekend.